So let's get started with the 2023 Stampers Anonymous Halloween release. And you can see it here. We've got our 6 cling mounted stamp sets and of course our stencils and our layering stencils. And I'll just talk through all the sets quickly and then we'll get into the makes, okay? All right, so I'm gonna just stack these up. It'll just be easier. Maybe I never know when I'm gonna set up how I wanna do it. So the first one, this is CMS 466. This is called Shattered. One of my favorites. Now this particular stamp, it's one large, massive background stamp. This one comes with its own block. So this set, this is included. The block is with this stamp in the package. And this one, of course, was inspired by the success of this one, if you recall, Bubbles. And I owe it to you guys because when I first pitched this, when we launched it last year, it was just I don't know, it was an odd thing to do, to create such a massive stamp, bigger than a card front, and just do a single stamp, which also came with a block. But because it did so well, and people understood it, and understood its purpose and its function, all of that, that is why I was able to do Shattered. Because there are just certain patterns, certain designs that work better on a bigger scale. Because one could argue, hey, you know, you could have shrunk this down, but you just wouldn't get the scale or the open space of Bubbles. The same way for Shattered. If I would have shrunk it down, I wouldn't have got the open space. Because to me, the new Shattered is more than just Shattered. Yes, it's great for shattered glass, so you can stamp on transparencies, and you can mimic the whole idea of Shattered. You can create fractures in things like mirrored, but you can also create really great webbing and or marbling. So that's why I thought it was perfect for Halloween, because if you stamp it, it kind of looks like that spray webbing over backgrounds, and you're going to see from the makes exactly what I'm talking about. You can also do this in metallic, and it really looks beautiful as like marbling, so you can do this over an alcohol ink background. It's just a really cool stamp. Now, if you also recall, when we talked about Bubbles and creating backgrounds, I'll just bring this in. I'm not going to demo it because I've demoed it many, many times, but this was a technique inspired by Stacy. We've used it now for several years, which is essentially taking a background stamp, taking any type of bold stamp. It doesn't have to be text. It could be any kind of solid. And you do that double stamping where you ink up a stamp, the stamp itself with the color of oxide, and then you ink up your pattern in black. So if you just kind of look through here, there's flowers. We've done it with wood grain, plaid. That's a little bit of Bubbles. This one was done. I love that wallpaper. But let's just talk specifically about Trick or Treats. An easy comparison that way, okay? So when Bubbles came out, this was the one that I talked about for Halloween, where we ink the bold text with oxide and then we stamp with the black bubbles, and it gives us this really great eroded, distressed look to the text. I love that. I still do. So I'm not saying, oh, if you got that, you don't want to do it. But what I love about Shattered is it just gives me more open space. So if I want to create that, I do get just more of a fractured font, if you will, than a grunged up font. You might prefer the grunge. I like both. I like to have creative options. So that's another way to think of Shattered, is that it does allow you to create more of these cracks or shattered look through the text than Bubbles did, because as you can see, it's pretty busy in there. It doesn't have a lot of open space, but this gives you open space here or there. So if you like this technique, another great use for this stamp. So that is Shattered. I do love it. It's one of my favorites. So I just love a big old stamp to go right over background. Okay. Next up, Sketchy leaves. I do leaves as often as I can. Of course, I'll just preface this again. I normally do it right at the beginning, but I don't draw. I license all of the art. I've licensed all of the art since day one of Stampers Anonymous. Usually when it comes to art, it's kind of a mix of ephemera that maybe I've scanned or art that I license from people that know how to draw. And I think that's the nice thing about having a mix of images from Stampers Anonymous. And when it came to leaves, it's always about going back in the catalog and seeing, like, what have I done? What haven't I done? And it was weird because I dove down into the depths. We're talking CMS 97. One of the first leaf stamps that I did with Stampers Anonymous is called Falling Leaves. This is when we used to do them on the white backers. Well, the sets from 0 to 100 are still this way with that cling cushion. But this set was just a little different. I was just getting started in stamps and just kind of figuring out kind of designs and styles that I liked. And I really like that it had a little bit of opening and a little solid. Then this one's one of my favorites just because of the scale of this and all of these little agey spots on the leaves mixed with the quotes. This was Nature's Wonder. I really liked this one. This is pressed foliage because this really looked like pressed leaves. Has a lot of little tiny, almost like crackly bits. Okay, but again, there's an assortment of sizes. These two I'd probably say in the world of leaves are a couple of my favorites. These are leaf prints. So this is more of like a monoprint, or where people actually took leaves and did printing. I licensed these. There's 2 sets of these because I love them so much. But when I saw this art, I was like, well, there you go. I've not done anything like that. It's not crackly, it's not pressed, it's not spotted, and it's not kind of a leaf photograph. This one, Sketchy leaves. What I liked about Sketchy leaves really is just that pen work. I thought it was so beautiful. I love illustration, but I love that it looks very organic. Doesn't look cartoony at all. The nice thing about this, and you're going to see from the makes, it is very, very nice when it comes to working with embossing glaze, because you have so many different lines that will hold on to the ink in the glaze, but also there's some great open space. I did see a question, are all of the leaf stamps available through Stampers Anonymous? Yes, thanks for asking that, Phyllis. All of the stamps, Stampers Anonymous never retires any of the stamps, so you can even go back to set 001. So all of these that I showed are still available through Stampers Anonymous, and many retailers stock pretty much the complete catalog as well. But the cool thing, like I said, is this open space. You're going to see it used with glaze, lift ink, so many different things, and that's why I always want to call out specifically the detail of why I did another leaf stamp, because it is different. Okay? Speaking of different, sometimes I just see art and it just, I don't know, grabs my attention, calls to me, says you need to do this, and I thought these were cute. This is called Tiny Frights. It has definitely a cartoon vibe, but in a bit of a whimsy way. There's everything from a cat to a skull, little owl, ghost, bat, moon and star, candy, of course, little witch hat, and the hat fits on all the things. So the hat's on the cat, the hat on the skull, the pumpkin, the ghost, the owl, a couple of leaves, and then just some great little sentiments. These are perfect for coloring, but also just a wonderful whimsy look. And I know sometimes people are like, what? It's so cutesy. But that's the thing about Stampers Anonymous. I have that creative freedom where I'm not trying to pull everything together like I would in the case of ideology or sometimes physics. This allows me to just treat each set as an idea. And one idea does not have to work with another idea. It can be its own. Often it does work with other ideas, but I like the creative freedom to just design unique sets. And this one, you get a lot of stamps on here. Now, I will also call out that my stamps, I've already done the weeding. The weeding means when these stamps, especially when I put a lot of images on a set, it will come with the whole piece of rubber. These are already die cut. Now you can leave that entire piece of rubber on there where you have to pull this out of that and pop it back in like a puzzle piece. I'm never bothered with that, so I've already gone in and pulled off that outer bit of rubber and thrown it away. So just know that when you get yours, if it's like this is solid, they're already die cut, you just have to go in and weed them. But I like it better this way. It's easier and it fits better in the storage for me. Okay, so that's Tiny Frights. Then this next one, for those of you that follow the series and the sets, this artist may look very familiar, and that is because last year at Christmas, I did this set, Holiday Sketchbook. And when I saw that same artist did Halloween art, I'm like, I totally have to do it, because I loved seeing the makes. I loved the makes from last year. It made me love this set even more. I already liked it. I already loved just those little sketchbook scenes. I love the font that it's paired with. And these made really great cards just because they were easy to use on tags, but they also were perfect for an A2 card. And so when I saw this, I'm like, I have to do the Halloween set, even if it's a year apart, just because the cutest things, really, the ghost with the candy bucket, the little vampire. I love this graveyard scene. Look at that witch. I love how she's dressed in the stripes. The candy. See, strangers have the best candy. They do. Let's face it. Growing up as a kid, you knew the houses that had the best candy, and you were there. That cauldron with that little steam and bubbles coming out, and I also love the little bottles, little bunch of hocus pocus. And many of these, of course, could be used, especially the bottles could be used different ways, but I just liked that set. So if you've seen this art and maybe you haven't seen Christmas, there you go. Or if you had Christmas and you liked it, you might like this Halloween set. So see, sometimes it's just the drawings, and I'm really, when I see an artist that has a certain style, sometimes you have to just wait it out and hope that they add to their portfolio, and I was lucky enough that they did. All right. The next set, we start getting a little creepy. This one is called Foreboding, and I was really inspired by these hand-drawn scroll flourishes. I loved them because you could use these for anything, and I've done, again, a lot of flourishes in all of the different stamp sets, but this one, I loved the sketch look. I love the open space because you can use these for metallic embossing powders. It does give you the ability to color in. If you use this with lift ink, it still shows a lot of color visible, but I needed to pair it with something that was a little different. And I've done, again, many skulls, but I saw this sketch. I loved the idea that this artist had of kind of doing the half skull. Most of the skulls that I've done are kind of that straight on perspective, and I really liked this half skull. And then of course I needed to pair it with a drippy candle, a creepy spider, and some splatter. So you'll see from the makes, but just to kind of call it out, this could be used by itself, but it is designed that it could be stamped on his head. So you could do a little masking and do that. And the same thing with the spider. The spider can go across, but the spider can also be stamped anywhere on the head just because of the curve of that spider. So just some things to point out that you're going to see on the makes. Because when the makers make for Stampers Anonymous, they get all the sets, so sometimes they even mix and match. And you can never have too many splatters. This one, I've done a lot of splatters, but I wanted to do something with really big splotches, okay? Then the final set in the release, this one, of course, my favorite. This is the obscure, because it is just that. It's just obscure, random things come together of what's in my mind. And when Paul and I were doing stuff for Ideology, she found this piece of ephemera. We actually, I think, have it in, I think it's in ephemera or layers. But I love this design. I'm like, we need to totally turn this into a stamp. I love this skull. This is a vintage engraving. So this came out of a book. I love the little cross section, kind of a medical journal with the vintage engraving. This was from a vintage Halloween invitation. So I love that a lot of times when we do vintage sets, it's not necessarily typography. This is vintage ephemera that was scanned. It was invited to a Halloween dance. So you might think like, and you probably could find a font to match, but I love knowing that it came from vintage ephemera. But take a look at that diagram of that web. So cool. I see a lot of comments about the hanging bat. Yes, he is very cool. Take a look at that hanging bat. He is great, and you're going to see some really fun makes with him. It's cool. Some little fill-in-the-blank text. I call it that because, well, you can't really read it. It's just stuff. I intentionally go in and erode it because I don't want you to be able to read it, because I love the idea of just fill-in-the-blank where you can stamp some random text. And then just this weed. I love this image. I don't know why. I just liked it, and I love the little roots there. So that's where the ideas come together to create a set. Very cool. And again, you're going to see the makes. Love it. Love it. All right. Then we've got some stencils. Now, these stencils in particular are a little different from the norm. Most of the time when I do stencils, I think of pattern. I think of different ways that you can use them with ink sprays or how we're going to print. On this particular one, it was about pastes. Specifically the paste that I did in the Distress Halloween collection, because I knew these were coming out. I knew that glow and black were new, and so I wanted to create things that would really tie in the paste. And so these are the new stencils. There's 3 stencils and of course the pack of minis, and the minis are this design but shrunk down, about usually 25 to 50% depending on scale and what we can do, but they're very, very cool. So we have this one. This is kind of a spellbound, kind of hocus pocusy, little bits of stars and splatters and speckles. So this could be coming out of a cauldron. This could go across a sky. But this is perfect for grit paste glow, because then you have these little stars or spells that glow. So I really loved the idea of that. Another one specifically for glow is peekaboo. I just like this because, you know, you have that dark night or black cardstock, and then you just have these eyes that are peeking through. So of course, if you do them in grit paste glow, then you have these eyes that will glow in the dark, both sizes. But you can also just use black paste. So maybe you want to do a different type of background where you're going to use black texture paste through this, and maybe mica stain, or maybe it's going to be you know, you wanted it a little bit evil, so you create a colorful background and you do black paste through the eyes. A lot of different options when it comes to how to work with either one of these. But this one, I'm so happy that Matt was able to figure it out. I've done different versions of a crackled stencil. Typically, we've done crackle where the positive part of the stencil is the crackle, and then when you ink it, it kind of acts as a resist or a mask, if you will. This one I wanted where we create the crack effects, but you have to create breaks so the stencil holds together. This one's so good for paste, whether you're using black or grit paste, crypt, because when you put that through the stencil, that little crack is what's raised, and it gives you an amazing, amazing texture on all types of makes. So I see this stencil being used year round, just for any time you want a cool distress effect. So I always love how things work out. So that is the release. It is a great release, a little bit of everything, but certainly some fun, cool stuff. I'm gonna just get set up because I also like to have the sets here because I have the makes sorted by stamp set. So let me just grab these. I'll move some stuff out of the way so I don't confuse myself, because I tend to do that often. There we go. And we'll have that here. Okay. So let's start with leaves. So I'm going to bring that set in just to show you. We're going to start with the makes for sketchy leaves, because you're going to see how for this stamp set a lot of different unique makes come out of an image set. It's what's always exciting about Stampers Anonymous, you know? You see a stamp set and then you see the makes and you're like, whoa, okay. This first card is from Barbara, and I love how Barbara used the leaves. See what I mean about the embossing glaze? So she used those new colors of embossing glaze. Look how beautiful this embosses. And it seems weird, right? If you've not designed stamps and you just look at stamps, there's a lot that goes into designing stamps, because you have to balance detail with open space, because you have to think of different mediums. Is it going to be done with ink? Is it going to be done with embossing glaze? And I love that we can still emboss this, but we have the open space and you don't lose that sketchy detail. So I love how she used all those different colors. And then if you look in the background, there is that shatter. This is what I was saying. It's a very cool background stamp because it's not as intense as bubbles. It has a lot of, you know, open space, but also some detailed area. But isn't that just, it's very cool. And then she used the Autumn Vibes set. That is from, I'm just going to pull that over here. See, I already moved it. I already moved it off. It's from Tiny Frights. I need to get rid of that Christmas set too. But really, a beautiful, beautiful card. A lot of just great, great colors. And I'm just gonna, I think I'll probably build this up, because some makers created sets. So Louisa created these sets. I'm gonna pull the cards back in just a minute. I love a set of cards. So when makers create for stampers, they really only have to make 2 cards, but many makers will do a series where they'll take an idea and they replicate it. And I always love that, because it does show how you can work with a set and really get a lot of mileage out of it. And you can mix and match and switch things up. So this series that Louisa created, I just want to talk about kind of the foundation, the fundamentals. If you look at the background, we've got paste. This looks like grit paste glow, so it's going to glow in the dark, but you can see that it picks up color. So when you put it on an inky background, it often picks up the color of the ink, but it will still glow. We've got those embossed leaves, and then she used Autumn Vibes. If you don't want to use that, you can use anything that you want that's different. I also love how she incorporated those flying bats from Moonlight with Sizzix. And then you can see the foundation behind the leaves is that really crazy weed that I talked about from the Obscure. But a great way to incorporate images, stencils, dyes, all of that stuff. Use what you have. So if you're like, you know what, I can only get 1 stamp set. Okay, I'll get this. But I have something similar to that, and I have this kind of stencil, and I want to use the dyes. Or if you want to replicate it, it does give you the opportunity to use all of those different things. But really cool. See, I love the mix of pattern design, texture, little splatter, sewing around the edges. It's great, because when you see stuff in a series, you're able to kind of picture it in different ways, and that's where the makers just absolutely shine. So Tifa created this. Take a look at this stunning envelope. I love the colors of embossing powder used. Absolutely fabulous. And then you can see the mica stain, how that just makes that envelope just shimmer. So you can create background paper, or you can create this and just cut this up as a card. And then inside, take a look at that. just beautiful. You've got that script from the obscure just kind of as a fill in the blank. All those colors, and that's just essentially painting with powder. And then we've got the Autumn Vibes, what a hoot. But I do love that. I love the idea of, oh, I was going to say, I felt something, but it was fasteners. Oh, take a look at that. A little pocket, little vellum pocket right there. See, Tifa, you're always full of surprises. I do love that. So here we've got the little tiny Frights that she created in there, and then all that stamping around the back, and you could use that as a pocket, or you could have a front and back. That is just, I love that, because that'd be like, you know, Starbucks gift card, right, Mario? Little pumpkin spice latte, just cool. But but a great way to look at imagery and use it for however you envision it. This panel Keisha did, and this is what I was saying about metallic. Look at the beautiful colors. Keisha always does just so many great colors, but this is what I was saying about taking that stamp. So here we've got a mix. The gold that you see, the gold embossed back here, that looks like webbing. This is also a great lightning stamp, by the way. If you're doing any stormy things, you can use this stamp to create lightning. Same with the stencil. But this is just done with metallic embossing powder over that beautifully ink blended background. And then we have that gold embossed leaf that Keisha did. And then if you look here and you see those other cracks, see how they're really shiny, they're glossy? That is done using the stencil. So you've got the shattered stamp, that's the metallic, and then you've got that translucent texture paste, that shine, over the ink that just adds that highlight. Isn't that beautiful? So it just catches the light in a different way than the metallic, but it's a great combination. I never really thought of combining that stamp with that stencil, but it works so perfectly because of just how it's used. And definitely people are feeling autumn vibes. That stamp is being used quite a bit, because it's a great one. MK did this, Cassie, and I do love the idea of how you can mix and match a little bit of embossing. So there is that metallic on the leaf, and then there is that ink stamped leaf. Fussy cut, there's no dies for these, so you see a lot of makers fussy cut. You can either create a border or you can cut right up to the edge. But I like just, this is that whole compartmental making, especially as we get into the season. Do some stamping, do some embossing, sit down in front of the TV and do some cutting out, and then you have these elements to build cards. But I love that the background of this is Ideology collage paper. So there's those color blocks. She's got a little crackle in there. And then this is one of the Ideology quote chips, because you can mix and match. You can do stamp sentiments, but you can also use anything that you have that would have a sentiment to incorporate on a card. But I love how it pops over that blue background, right? Good. Creating quite the stack. I better get a better system for this. I'll figure it out in just a second. So Sharon created 2 cards, so I'll just talk about, because her style is just, she just wings it, whatever works, and I love it. So here, again, you see embossing glaze, and I love seeing that these powders are just used with such vivid color, because we added those new colors this year. It's really nice for fall makes, seeing those colors, because these leaves in all the different colors are perfect for any type of card maker style. It's a little vintagey, but also very colorful, and I love the little splatters of mica stain, just giving it that shine and shimmer. But you can see here the stitching around the edge. Such a cool card. Again, autumn vibes for the win. But then taking the same stamp set and going, you know what, I'm going to create a totally different look. That's the thing about makers, where they're like, yep, I did this. This is a whole nother idea. So Sharon created this card as well. I love the repetition of a single stamp, and I know people that love rainbow palette are just going to love that real subtle use of color, the rainbow, and just overlapping those images across a card front. How cool is that? Really, really good. And this one is just distressed around the edge using a paper distressor just to create that little tattered edge all the way around. And again, the little splatters. So thinking about a stamp set, same autumn vibes, but just using different products that you might have and how you wanted to create with it, I think that to me is incredibly inspiring. I agree. Everyone's like, the overlap. I do love the overlap. I agree with you guys. I love that. And then we have Alberto, who can just color like no other. There you go. That rhymed, and I meant to do that, which is good. Color like no other. I love his his color style with alcohol markers, but take a look at how he can take a sketchy stamp and just make it this beautifully clean, illustrative look. And I think that that to me is not fascinating. All of his little pen work, all that detail, that's what he just draws in. But the foundation, that is the stamp. But you know, you have the ability to incorporate color and utilize your markers, then you don't have to worry about the sketchy lines. That's really just going to give you an outline to go in and do all of your blending and shading. And he does. He colors so amazing. And I always, when I see what he does with the stamps, I'm just always shocked. Like, what? How? And then his ability to add the little detail. And I always love, you know, I think that's his little touch. That little sparkle is just, it is. That little twinkle, it's magic. But beautiful, beautiful coloring on a card. And again, totally different styles. So if you're not into vintage and glaze and grunge and all that, it is all about just kind of following your style. You do you. So this next card, Zoe with a Y, I love how she incorporated some purples in here, some deep undertones. You can see on the background a lot of mixed inking. Love the oxides back here. This was really cool. I love how she cut out all the leaves and stamped once, stamped a second time, cut out these leaves. Oh, look, there's a little mica stain on there. I just saw how the light caught it. And then layered the leaves over that stamped stem. You can see a little bit of that crackle in there. So that's coming from the stencil. So that boulder break, that again is from the stencil. The stencil's not just for texture paste. You can go in and use your inks. But I do love those colors in there of the card, a little bit of mummy cloth. And again, autumn vibes. I'm glad I did that stamp. Everyone's like, well, you'll see when I bring them all back. Autumn vibes for the win. But cool, really good palette. Then Jen created this one. So just because it's sketchy and it has lines doesn't mean you have to embrace the lines. You saw Alberto just went in and colored right over those. Here Jen did kind of a brushless watercolor technique, inking the stamp, spraying it with water, and then stamping it. So you still get the outline shape. You definitely lose all the sketchy detail, but that's another thing. If you like the shape and the scale of a stamp, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to deal with all of these little lines, because if you ink it and spray it with water, all of these hard lines will soften into a beautiful background. You can take a look here where she also used the shattered stamp. See, it's the detail. Once you guys use this, it's again like spray webbing. You just get those little lines that you can kind of stamp wherever you want. That's why it's such a big stamp, so you can just use parts and pieces. And then there's that little handwriting throughout the background of the obscure. I love that. Make today count. Great, because you can make fall cards for anyone. Then Anita created this set of cards, and I always love, you know, there again, Anita, she does a series, but she does a series more of like the idea behind it, and then completely changes the product for it. Kind of like how Sharon did the cards. And I love how Anita did two completely different cards. This one done with inks. I love that pop of, you can see there's metallic cardstock behind it. This has a lot of mica stain. You can see how just, it's almost like the camera just washes that out because there's so much shimmer on this. I do love that. I love all the shine. But you can see that's from the obscure. We've got this flourish, that's from Foreboding. So remember I told you about how that hand-drawn flourish was just so cool of how it was designed. Then we've got that bit of crackle from the stencil, and then of course the sketchy leaf. So mixing and matching the imagery, fabulous. And then this done with alcohol inks. So this is alcohol ink background and using alcohol lift ink. So using lift ink, that's what's going to lift off the alcohol background and show that image in a faint, almost ghost-like look. But she used the same layout. See, leaves, foreboding, crackle, obscure, but a different medium. And I think that's really impactful when it comes to being inspired by a stamp set, because stamp sets are just images. So whatever it is that you like, whether you wanted to, you're an alcohol ink user, you like to use distress, you like to use watercolor, you like to use alcohol markers, all of that is really important to just remember that whenever you look at anybody's stamped images, that it's just the outline. It's just the art itself. How you bring it to life, that's up to you as a maker, because it completely changes the look and everything by the mediums that you use with the stamp set. Then I've got another card set. So this is from from Kathy, and take a look at this little set. So you can kind of see like a 2 and 2, but I loved how they were stacked up, so I kind of left them like that when I was setting up last night. But these are done with alcohol inks as well, so I'll show you. These are alcohol ink lift ink as well, like Anita did. So we've got that alcohol background, and then I love how Kathy just went in with those sketchy leaves and just did these prints. They almost look like a monoprint or bleaching, because look at the detail of the sketch. That's what I was saying about the detail line work. They really play well with techniques, whether you're using lift ink, whether you're using embossing glaze. Those little tiny lines, they show up, they're visible, and I love that. I love how these are layered on these die cut postage panels, and if you look at the background is that text from the obscure. That's why you just need that little fill in the blank. You don't necessarily need a big background stamp when there's something that's not legible like that. You can just fill in the blanks. So really cool. And then these, I don't know. I'm actually looking, but I've got to look and see. Oh, really? Okay. Well, that's a shocker. I'll go back to that in a sec. Dang, I'm glad he texted you. All right. So this one, I'm not really sure. I'm gonna guess this is done with lift, but I've not seen lift ink done so well on black. I think that this black could be Durabrite, but if this is lift, I'd be so shocked. But it probably could be, because what I'm seeing here, that's why I'm like trying to get as close as I can. So this is black matte. This definitely seems like it is Durlar, because it's really thin. That's that new surface we added to the alcohol ink line. These are alcohol pearls, because I can tell from that pearly shine. But typically pearls don't lift well because of that pigment. They don't lift well, but this looks incredible. So if that's what it is, I can't wait to try it, because I think that, I mean, to me, that contrast is shocking. It really is. It's got such great contrast. The same way, you know, when you do lift ink on Yupo, you get that really great contrast of bright white. But this one, I love the contrast of that. So yeah, I don't think Kathy's watching, but I'll have to find out, because that's really, I don't know if Paula knows, but that's super interesting. Was there a note? No. Okay. Very cool. Is there a note on this? Oh, maybe. No, just the backgrounds, but still, nonetheless, absolutely amazing. Cool. See, I love to be stumped. I love to go and figure it out, because as a maker, it's like, ooh, it's in my brain. Then these cards, Kath created. I love this when I saw them, just because look at that giant medallion of shine. Okay, this is done with ultra thick. I can tell, and I love that little crack. I don't know if that was intentional, if that just happened in shipping, but that is what I love about ultra thick, is the little crack in there. But Kath created this little series of cards, and again, take a look at just changing up your papers, changing it from white cardstock or craft or black, and then we've got the background of shatter, so you can see how great that is as a background stamp, depending on the color, whether you're doing that background in white, whether you're doing that background tone on craft, or whether you're doing that on white cardstock. Then we have just a little bit of design tape. We've got the leaves. I absolutely love just how those are layered underneath. And then we have this big puddle. Now this big puddle, a stamp, right? Brush strokes. Kath is a fan of this set, as am I. Absolutely love this, because it creates cool foundational pieces. So this is, Mario just pointed out, this is color. The color is done with embossing glaze, distress embossing glaze, but then the top coat, what made it really thick and shiny, is UD, ultra thick embossing enamel. So mixing your glazes to get those beautiful swirly colors. These are stunning, Kath. Just getting, because the glaze will just kind of melt and float and fuse through that. But then putting a top layer of ultra thick, magical, right? But this stamp is what's like that foundation to just let all of that stuff build up. Very cool. And Kath is so great about sharing techniques, so I can't wait to see the process of this one. Because it's so cool, especially just changing your backgrounds and your images. Fabulous cards. Look how shiny that is. Just, Yes. I remember the days. I loved ultra thick. I used ultra thick on so many things. And then this, like, some people don't like this. I absolutely love cracking it, because you take your cards and you put them in the freezer. So this gets really cold and then you just try to crack it and create that. But stunning effect, isn't it? It's so good. Because that would be like a, you know, a pound of glossy accents, but really with ultra thick, it's so much shinier. I love it. So cool with the stamp. So before I bring it in, I want to do a correction that Mario pointed out, because Alberto messaged him and said, oh, but now I got to really look. So I'm going to, he said this is done with Distress watercolor pencils. I believe him because he did it. But I can't believe that a pencil, especially the Distress pencils, blend so well in Vivid. I was stumped. I thought for sure this was alcohol markers, and obviously from the chat, you guys all thought so too, because you're like, yep, that looks like alcohol marker blending. But let me just tell you, like, they're so cool. So cool. The fact, so I just...
Those are just pencils.
I can't even
Distress pencils for the win.
I can't even get over that. See, like this is something that I would just like to watch. This is, you know, like, people are like, I don't necessarily like to watch reels where people just color. This one, I would be fascinated to see the transformation, because there is not a pencil line to be had. It is so just vivid and blended. And when you have color on top of a color, oh my gosh. I know. See, now you see the chat where they're like, what? Yeah. Right. Alcohol markers, you're already impressed, but you've seen alcohol markers. But to see this is done in pencil, that's serious skill. I don't even get it. I don't. That's remarkable. Remarkable. So, bringing all these cards in just so you can see how magical really the makers are. There's so many different styles and looks, and I love to just build up the background with cards. I know that one card will cover the next card and all that, but it is just, it's amazing. It's amazing to me to see how you could be inspired by a single stamp set to create absolute magic, right? Just one crazy, cool thing after the next. Get some leaves in there. I can barely fit all these in. I never can. I got Anita's on there too. Yeah. See, I try to put those on screen, but a lot of inspiration for a stamp set. Woo. Yeah, crazy. That's one set. So here we go. That to me is what I'm always so grateful to the makers for live, because they take on that challenge to really make a stamp set shine. They're like, well, what could I do with it? And they all do their own thing, and I love the results. I love just seeing the variety. Like, yes, it could be grungy. Yes, it could be bright. Yes, it could be colorful. Yes, you can use things that you can't even figure out in your head how that's done. Just, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. Yeah, that's one stamp set. Unbelievable. Wow. Okay, there we go. I'll keep those in the bucket because I'm going to photograph some groups in a second. All right, our next one. Ooh, it's about to get cutesy in here. I like that.
Cutesy. Oh, it's good.
It's cute. So we're going to talk about tiny frights, and they do. These make me smile. They're just so fun and colorful, and how the makers utilize these little characters in so many unique ways. Super fun. So this one is all about tiny frights. I want to start with this etc. tag that Tammy B did, because as we talk about stamps, we often talk about cards, right? Creating cards with it. But if you're not a card maker, you don't have to make cards. You can utilize imagery many different ways. So this one is using the new etc. So this is starting with an etc. tag. This is also from Stampers Anonymous. So this is thick board. You can see it's a really thick paper board. I love the inky background. Look at that black opaque texture paste. See, it doesn't always have to be glow. It's really good. Oh, that's cool. Okay, I see what she did. All right, I see, I just caught it. All right, this one, this is Ideology. This is from the baseboards pack, that little quote chip. These are little hardware heads. But let's talk about these, because I just had an aha moment. So these are the etc. tiles that we just launched this year. So these are thick board, not as thick as this, a little half the thickness, but they come in a variety of, we've got big squares. These are the mosaics where you get these little squares. You also get these rectangles. But here's what Tammy did. When you get these in the pack, for those of you that have them, they come in this, I'll just call it a matrix, right? Like a framework, and there's tiny little areas where they're connected and you pop them out. So Tammy created these and then still utilized that frame that framework that normally you just pop out and you get rid of the frame, she put them back in the frame. So that is really cool to actually take those mosaics, cover them with paper, stamp, do the coloring. I love all the coloring on here. A little bit, looks like a little bit of pencils, maybe even some mica, and then stick those tiles back in. I love that little break. Very, very cool. So, I mean, this is fun because you can take that panel lineup, you can do that panel lineup, you can do, and even if you're not going to do etc. I say this every time, so I will remind you again, this is all about being inspired. And if you are watching these lives as a maker, you should have a little notebook, something, because let's just say you are not into dimensional art, you're not into tags, you're not into thickboard, none of that. You are strictly a card maker. Take a look at this idea of just taking cardstock, cutting it into squares and rectangles, and that is a card panel. So you make that little mosaic, you do foam squares, and that becomes a card. Or that's your layout, where you're actually taking the stamp set, but you're stamping it on tiles, and that becomes a card front. That could be a card panel. So utilizing these images or the idea of doing mosaic tiles and just using it for cards. So see, sometimes it's like, it's about connecting the dots, going, oh my gosh, I love the idea of squares and rectangles. Okay, there's a card. Okay, there's a card. Or there's an A2 because now you did this, this, and this. Really just clever. Inspiration everywhere. It's just about like absorbing that like a sponge, just seeing it. Yeah, I saw Zoe say slimline. It would be a perfect slimline. So the idea of taking these, because like I said, you're going to see these used many different ways. This is just one of many, but I love how Tammy has these tiled. Very cool. All right, I'm going to put this over here. This next one, Paula and I talked about this card. I have to say I did cheat on this because she's like, you have to see this card, okay? So Sharon created this card. There we go. I was hoping the light would get it. There we go. Yes, it is a beautiful pink background. I love this pink background. These are all individually cut. So Sharon stamped these, colored them, and cut them all out. So they are all individually cut. And these are just stamped on, it could be colored cardstock, you could do ink backgrounds, you can add a little bit of mica stain, but that black outline is from the stamp itself. And I love how she did that. And yes, you could say, oh my gosh, it takes so much time. We're makers. Since when do we not enjoy spending time making? So I love this idea of just how those characters pop on that pink background. So think about that, taking the stamp set, stamp it on inked backgrounds, color cardstock, whatever you want, and then just sit down and just cut out an entire bowl of these little characters. And you can create a background panel, you can create a tag, you can just use one piece, but I really love how they are layered onto this background panel. Aren't they cute? So much fun. They are. They're tiny little frights. I absolutely, absolutely love it. Just adorable. So many ideas. So many cute ideas. This next one, Barbara created. I love the color. I love the mica stain. And there you can see that little spellbound, just that wonderful texture. This is super clever. I like the idea of these circles. These are die cut circles through the card panel. And then Barbara has those little elements just kind of hanging or suspended into those little circles. And then take a look at this little detail. Look at these little rock candy, sugary ideology candy corns and the little confection. How charming is that? But what a great card. Very cute use of color, using your die cuts, and totally different, right? We started with those mosaics that Tammy did, cutting a background or utilizing these in a circle. So again, great idea, because you don't even have to do a 4-up. You can say, okay, there's a card, there's a card, there's a card. You get the idea of just, I love that. I love that little bit of shine. Oh my gosh, my gosh, oh my gosh. All right. Ooh, these are fancy. These are fancy. All right. Jen created these. I'm like, look, these are fancy because they're like sparkly and shimmery. So Jen created this little series. I love the contrast on the black backgrounds. And these have so many different, you can see the paste. There's a little texture paste through Spellbound, and then the mica stain just kind of dripping. Distress mica stain on black is very, very magical because Distress mica stain, the seasonal, it is a combination of dye and that shimmery pigment. So you don't see much of the color at first, but then when the light hits it, you do see all the color of shimmer that goes through. And I love all the the little confections from this, stamped on watercolor paper, watercolored with some distress ink. There's a little bit of sparkle on there, using a little bit of glitter, glossy accents. These are all embossed in black. That's why they're nice and shiny. Here for the candy. Look at this one with that gritty paste and the mica. I love that kind of drippy background. Wicked fun. And see, there's that little hat, because that hat can also be used, see, on the pumpkin. It's used on the ghost. It was just sized to fit all the little characters in this set. It's just cute. It's fun. You could use this set so many different ways. Hey, Boo, take a look at that card. I love just again, the background with the mica stain, just a nice swoosh of that. And then these little ghosties, and this one, little wobbler, right? Look at that. I got it right the first time. Wobbler. I did. Listen, I did try to prep. I take notes as well. But cute, great series of cards. And again, think about it. Compartmental making, stencils, backgrounds, sprays, images, cut out, done. Very cute. I know that goes with the witch hat. I agree. So cute. All right. Keeping on, Kath created this little duo, and take a look at the background. I thought this was really clever. So this is the peekaboo stencil, but then she added the little googly eyes. That's hilarious. It just adds a whole different fun element to working with that stencil. So here you can see this is the black opaque texture paste, and then she went in with that crackle stencil, and then this is probably glow in the dark. So you got a little glow in the dark paste on there. But these are so cute. I love these little ghosties, but really, I love that little highlight. See the little highlight she added in their eyes, that little white dot? Totally changes their personality, huh? Makes them look so sweet. Not as mischievous. They're definitely fun. See what a dot can do. What a dot can do. Very cute. I love the colors too. I love just that bright green, but really the googly eyes. You know me. 5-year-old. Hello. What a hoot. What a hoot indeed. Kath, I love the little detailed pen work, because I see it in the owls too, that little white dot. Probably using a glaze pen. I do. I love it. But look at this. Look at the owl hanging upside down here. And then you've got these. It's like, who's that one? That's me over there. Just always doing something wrong. I love that spellbound stencil in the background, the ink, the splatter. But if you look at the palette, I think that's so remarkable to do your backgrounds, and you can still have one that's got a great Halloween vibe by throwing in the orange and black and the owls, or you can just go full on Halloween, but you can still make it fun and whimsical. Great cards. Great cards, because they're cute, but in a totally different way, a totally unique way of making it. All right, hopefully Mario has notes on these so I get these right, because Alberto created two. So are these pencils? Or are these alcohol markers?
Both.
They're both, of course. Well, why not? Just do both. Take a look at these cards that Alberto did. Come on. I mean, alcohol markers and pencils. But for me, it's the masking. That's one stamp, people. That is one candy corn stamped a bazillion times, layered and tumbled and scattered. The masking skills alone, and it's also the shadow, because they look, like they're stacked and piled, but it's everything. It's the highlights. Geez, to be able to color that way, to not think that that's just done on a computer, it's amazing. It really is. And I love that little owl, and then here for the candy. Don't blame him, so cute. And then this one as well, using that other piece of candy and the masking in those purple colors. And I love that the purple owls over here, the orange ones over here. Aren't these they're fantastic. They're just fantastic.
That candy corn,
the shading.
Just unbelievable.
It's like I just want to, me, I want to pick off a piece and eat it. And these little wrapped purpley yummies, you know that they taste delicious. Grape, I know. Purple grape, and I do. I do love grape candy like that. I know a lot of people don't, but I do. I think it's yummy. Well, I think any candy's yummy. Those are beautiful. Absolutely amazing. Just doing like that little bit of layering for an image is a great idea of creating a background. Amazing, amazing, amazing. All right. Then Nico created these. I love this little set that Nico created. If you're into artist trading cards, great. If you're not, also great, because artist trading cards to me are kind of the gateway to quick card making. Some people you know, totally disregard artist trading cards because they're like, I'm not going to make art and give it away and trade it, or okay, don't think of it like that. If you're into it, totally think of it like that. But if you're not, think of it as making these little works of art that you're happy with and you're done. And then if you're a card maker, it is a card. You can stick it onto any card, any folded card. It could be an A2, it could be a smaller one, and this is already done. So sitting down making ATCs is actually very beneficial because it's already a finished work of art, and when you need a card, you can stick it on any size card that you want. But beyond that, you can just create a wonderful series with repetition. So let me just go through all of the colors, because what I really loved about what Nico did is he used the tiny frights. These are all colored, cut out, layered little foam tape. Still stacked the candy corn. It's really great. The double bats. But it's the backgrounds that he did on each one. And so I just want to point it out. There is mica stain on the background, so you can see a little splatter. So it's ink blending, but then your mica stain is more of like an accent. So you get that little bit of shine. But I love the splatter, and I love how he stamped the shattered. Can you see the orange lines? You'll see that on each one where he stamped the shattered design in a deeper color than the background. And I think that's so cool because it adds such a great texture to the background. Green on green, yellow on yellow, obviously black on gray, little blue on blue, and purple on purple. So it makes for a very subtle detail, a subtle background. But I love that all of those tiny nuances that maybe you wouldn't see at first, because you're like, oh yeah, it's because you're so charmed with the owl. I love the little blue ghost. Reminds me of that cereal. Anybody else eat, Boo Berry and Count Chocula and Frankenberry? I love that. Boo Berry all the way. A blue ghost? You know me. Mario knows. If it was blue as a kid, I ate it. I ate blue Play-Doh. It didn't matter. I knew nothing. I wanted to eat everything blue. I still do. But I love that little blue ghosty right there. Little stitching around the edge. Look at the little witch hat on the skull. See? It fits everything, and it does. It gives it a complete different personality. So really great work on these, Nico. They're just a lot of fun because it breaks down the card making thing. That to me, I absolutely love it. And yeah, that stitching, that's really good. Good going around the corners. Cute. And I do love all these little sentiments, right? Trick or treat, here for the candy. Hocus pocus, what a hoot, wicked fun. Hey boo. Just have fun. Have fun picking those out. It's good. All right. A whole other creative way is just getting your funk on. So Louisa created this whole little tag thing. It's so flamenco fancy. Like it's just these feathery things. Look at that. I don't know what it is, but like look at that. You know me, I'm tactile. So this is a whole little tag book that she created. Very, very Halloween, very mixed media, but the combination of stuff is really intriguing. Let's check it out because I haven't really taken a deeper dive. I just, when I put this together, I was like, whew, I do love these. So creating on tags, starting with tags, I'm going to look at all the details in the background so I can see that background stamping. There is that slide frame die from the Sizzix Chapter 3 that we did last year. Little Ideology film strip ribbon with some white embossing. Really cool. I also love the stamping in the back. You see a little bit of shattered in there. There's the leaf that we have cut out. Little wicked fun. And then we've got some grit paste glow. And I love the little tabs because it makes for a really fun book. So here you can see some paper dolls. And again, that little frame. Stamped film strip ribbon, but then our background. I love the web, so that's from the Obscure. You can see that back there. Little glow-in-the-dark grit paste. But this is, if you're into junk journaling and mixed media, you're not far off. And I say this really, I think in every live, because I've been doing this for so long that it's unfortunate how makers sometimes need to identify how they make, and they stick with it. Like I only make cards, or I don't do junk journals, or I don't do this. Okay, it doesn't necessarily matter what you end up making. You can take all of those ideas and concepts and apply them to what you like to make. So you can still take all of these junk journal elements and turn it into a tag or a card, because you can use up your scraps, your little numbered pieces of ephemera, your little snippets of fabric. That to me is what's so great about having a mixed media junk journal maker make for stampers or ideology. I don't know if, oh yeah, this one, there's another one. We'll flip this one, take a look at that. Again, there's our scroll here from Foreboding. We've got some more Shattered. There's another leaf. The collage elements from Ideology, Slide Frame. They're just fun, right? And each one could be its own thing, but I see that each one's got a little feathery edge, and when they're all stacked up, there we go. Beautiful. So cool just to sit down and create all these little fun works, and using stamps in different ways. That could be the highlight if that's your thing. A paper doll, that could be your thing. But I really love kind of the monochromatic look, the black and white, and then just a little touch of some color, be that vintage ephemera or a little bit of alcohol ink or just some inked papers. But great texture, great design, just great fun. So a really cool tag book that she created. Isn't that fun? So fun. Let me just get this one. There we go. Good fun. Do you just want to do this? Gosh, I'm bringing up a lot of childhood triggers with feathers and yeah. Well, you know, I don't know. It is some with the feathers. I love it. Feathery is nice. So this card Joy made, there you go, another wobbler. This is super fun with all of the glow in the dark. So we've got the little glow in the dark paste on that ghost. Then I love that paste used through the stencil, and then you can see the background is using the tapestry multi-level with some mica stain. And then that's an Impresslit. A very cute card, really fun. And again, on the glow in the dark, because I've talked about that a lot. The glow in the dark paste is a paste, well, really like any other glow in the dark product. You charge it by light, so you get it in front of bright light, and then when it's dark, it will glow for a minute or so, depending on how charged up, and then you get in the light again, and it will glow, and it's not a flashlight. It's not something that you can charge it up and it will glow for an hour. It doesn't really matter how long. You don't have to charge it up very long. It takes usually seconds to charge up, and I think the glow is beautiful. Really, really intense and really fun. But I love how these eyes become the background, and I really like how they're layered over that embossing folder. Just fun. Yeah, boo. Cute. Great card. A lot of people love the Hey Boo. I love the Hey Boo. So Sharon created this. Again, just fun using that same stamp, but then just did that wonderful messy watercolor wash over that. Made a little shakety shake at a sequence, just kind of floating around in there. But you can see, again, just repetition. Isn't that ghosty cute? He is fun. I love the messy watercolor. Watercolor outside the lines, stitched around that little pouch, and then we've got Hey Boo sitting on the top of that transparency. But great shakety shake. Cute card. In the colors. Again, if you're into Halloween, but you're not into the black and orange and purple, and there you go. Cute. Ideas and inspiration. If you don't want to do it with the ghosty, maybe you want to take this idea and do it with the cat, or do it with the owl, or whatever. The idea is still repetition and beautiful little colors. So fun. This one I thought was really unique. I loved just, again, seeing these characters in a different position altogether. So Kathy created this card, a great slimline card. I love this stack of these tiny Frights. How fun are those, where they're stacked up. Look at that little crazy stitching all the way around, little scribbly stitch. And then we've got that Spellbound. So you can see why I wanted to do that stencil. It has a whimsical vibe. It also has a cool kind of grungy vibe. But I love the idea. But isn't that cute, that whole little stack? And these are just stamped right on top. So you could do masking, but it's really easy just to kind of line these up. They are embossed in black, so you can see the shiny little outline on all of these. Embossing is also a really great way that if you're going to color, these are colored with mica stain. You can see that shine. If you do embossing first, it kind of creates a little wall or a well. So when you do watercolor, it keeps the color from running out. And then it's splattered with some mica stain. I'm telling you, mica stain is like life. I know we only bring it out for the season, but this is a product that just could be used year-round and should be used year-round on makes, because it adds such a great color and shine. Isn't that fun? Fun little frightful stack. So cute. Told you, you're going to see these characters just used in so many different ways. So Kuber created this card. Look at this. These are all just, are these all, oh my gosh. Oh boy. I'm overstimulated as a child. It's like, look, now there's just too many things. So these are all wobble. I don't think I've ever seen so many wobblers on one card. This is like wonderfully wobbly. On me.
Wobble, wobble,
Yeah, look at that. All right, so let's just talk about the card because I'm just looking. Beautiful background that Kuber did that's blended. Here you can see that shatter stamp throughout. That's what's creating those cool little effects in there that really tie in with ink blending. That's the other thing I love about the organic look of Shattered. If you do a lot of splattering with water on your distress, you often get these cool marks. But look how that stamp just kind of draws your eye in, focuses those a little bit more. These little tiles all have grit paste glow, so they're going to glow in the dark all the way around the edge. So it just acts as a little light box, I'm guessing, around these little characters. Then there's that stamp from the Obscure, and then we've got all of these little sentiments. But how cute is that? They're so fun. See, the tiny Frights, it may not be your jam. Oh, see, he wobbles really well, I think because of his hat, a little witch hat, and the bat up there. Super fun, a great way to incorporate these little elements and utilize them. Each one is its own idea, but also I love that they go on to that inky background. So cute. I mean, really, there's so many different ways to incorporate this stamp set. No denying it though. However you use it, it's going to be cute. That we know for sure because it is like serious cuteness, cute overload. Oh my gosh, look at all these cards.
That is my favorite when you fill the screen up like that.
Well, you know, I try to do my best, but I don't really know if it's even working. But I do love the whole concept of
look, it's
how
awesome.
how makers make cards in such a different and unique. Let's see, we'll push this down and we'll put this here, and then we'll put this here. There you go. Look at that.
It's beautiful.
Super fun. Yeah, so inspiring. I just think there's so many different ideas. You know, from shakes to stacks to textures to color, like so creative, all from a stamp set. Wow. So that's Tiny Frights. Okay. Oh, we still have these. See, I knew. We've got this, and we have these. There we go. Oh, I'm going to still fill in the blanks. I'm going to put him in there because, you know, I like that. And then I'm going to do a little feathery. See, I love a challenge. I do love a little, look at that. A little flouncy.
Top left
Look at
corner,
that.
you could squeeze
Look
a
at
little
that.
something
See,
right
look,
there.
now Mario's like, oh, you could do that. Yeah, it's just fun. I can do this part all day, but I can't wait to photograph them because I do that as well.
That's
Photos for social. Just a lot of fun. Okay, let's gather these up. So much inspiration, really. I love seeing that with stamps. It's pretty magical. I'm going to put those together. Put those together. There we go. And that. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mario. Okay, moving on.
You are doing really so good.
All right, so this was just kind of like, we still have a stamp set, but I also wanted to kind of talk about ideas, okay? Because there's still one with the Frights, but I also want to talk about the next set, okay? So when it comes to making, I'm going to just bring these in. When it comes to making for Halloween, it's a weird thing because some people go, do people even send Halloween cards? Yes, I know people that send Halloween cards, but I still think it's a fun making season. But one of my favorite things is thinking about parties, gatherings, and gifts. And so these two sets in particular, when you notice the scale, you notice that they're very small elements. It was really about that. And so I pulled out two makes in particular to talk about that because I thought the makers had a really great idea for Halloween makes. If you're doing parties, if you want to do teacher's gifts, office gifts, anything, little treat bags, utilizing these sets. So first we will talk about doing this with Tiny Frights, and then we'll talk about the Halloween sketchbook. So this idea, Anita created. So this is really, the foundation is a pillow box. So this is a die from Sizzix, but it's utilizing stamps, but using the stamps more as an embellishment, if you will. These are all cut out like stickers. If you don't have a pillow box die, you can find little bags. You can already find pre-made little things that you want to fill with candy. So in here, she definitely has some Smarties for those that love Smarties. They're so good. Smarties in the UK are totally different. They're actually chocolate. But Smarties here for us are like these delightful little sour things that you put the entire thing in your mouth. So good. Okay, but you can fill it. You can see I'm going to be distracted with candy. I'm going to save that one for me. Okay. I love how Anita went in and created these great little boxes using mica stain, and using mica stain in a very splattery way. You see how it's all splattered? Then we have that Spellbound stencil to create that glow, but it was really about just the imagery. This one is just done black and white. So black cardstock, white embossed, done. This one, the opposite, white cardstock, black embossed. You could do a little mica stain, done. Or you can go in and do your coloring. And I think it really is fun because all of this can be compartmental thinking when it comes to creating. Okay? It could be something where it's like, hey, you know what? I want to just do my black and white embossing, or I just want to do embossing and maybe add a little mica stain, or maybe you paint with a little glow, or I just want to add some color. But these could all be done ahead of time. Then you do all of your boxes, get that done, and then you just stick these down and essentially decorate your boxes. But I thought that's really, really smart. Oh, I see, like, Smarties are chocolate in Canada and the little guys are rockets. See, I love that. Candy. So this was a very clever idea for this, but then Anita threw one in that was just random, and I fell in love with it when I was setting up last night. Take a look at this. I mean, come on. Take a look at this little mummy pillow box. I mean, come on. So it doesn't use this stamp set at all. What this uses, these are the eyes from Peekaboo, from the stencil. This is glow-in-the-dark paste that she did on a pillow box. So just think of this, whether it's a pillow box or a card front. I think it's really brilliant. And then took Ideology mummy cloth and wrapped it. Now the mummy cloth has like a little stiffener, so it could be collage medium. It could be anything that you want just to kind of make this a little crunchy. I love the subtle inking where it looks aged, but take a look at that little mummy box with that trick or treat tag. I love the idea of using the stencil as eyes for mummies, because if you think about it, those stencils, you can have a whole different series really of personalities depending on which eyes, because it does look weird as a stencil because it's kind of opposite, but then you really get it where the pupils are dark. But you can see he could be sinister, he could be afraid, he could be a little crazy. I mean, that's what I love about this. And I think, you know, at face value, when you see it, you're like, I don't really know. And maybe you're still not into the whole whimsical vibe, but this was a great idea for a treat box or a card. Think about it. You can still cut yourself a rectangle panel for a card, pick whatever eyes you want, grit paste, let it dry, do your mummy cloth, and wrap that piece of card or chipboard in mummy cloth, and then stick that on a card, right? You could foam tape it, do whatever, and now you just made like a little mummy panel. So even if it's not the pillow box, which is absolutely adorable, it could still be great for a card panel. It's a great idea. It really is, using the eyes as like a character versus a background. Just thought that was great. Okay. So continuing on with the whole party idea, as I said, I kept a couple of makes out because they were just really like just more party themed idea. Stacy created these tags from the Halloween sketchbook set. And tags are really great because they could be gifty. They could be the idea of a treat bag. Stacy does a lot of treat bags, but I love the idea of these little flip cards where you can just take that and create repetition. These could be tied around a treat bag. Maybe you're gonna already have little bags of candy made and you can tie these around, or you can stitch these down and actually use it as a pocket. But I love just the thinking of utilizing elements that you might have in your craft space, like a die for this label, or maybe it's a die of a circle or whatever. That's going to be your shape. So Stacy used the label die. The background, take a look at how these are stamped. So this is stamped in, well, a lot of things. This one's done in mica stain. So over the black, it creates that wonderful luminous shadow. See how I said like shadow is almost splattery or webbing because it's so detailed? But then I also love the little die cut of the spider web. This is one of my favorites. I think it's called Cobwebs. Sizzix die. I think it might still be available, but it's like the black on black. And then she has these little tags. Also that die cut from the vintage labels where it's got that recessed color, and then just did all the charming little details. Like look at the little pin, the little bubbles to kind of go with that little mummy cloth around. I love how the mummy cloth has the different coloring because you can stain the Ideology mummy cloth. Remember, this only comes out at Halloween, so it's nice that you can add the color. But just that little detail of the pin with the little beads, making these, again, cards. Maybe you're going to gift someone a bottle of wine. Maybe we talk a lot about candy, but candy and wine are at the same priority level in my world lately. They are. But I love the little details, and Halloween makes, they're fun, because I read it all the time on social, like, I don't even do Halloween, but I love the ideas for Halloween. Well, me too, because they're fun ways to make. So I thought those were great little, I don't know, party ideas, if you will. If you're doing a gathering, or you need to do a series of makes, I thought both of those ideas were really brilliant. The little mini card tags and the pillow boxes. All right. I'll set those over there. Okay, so we're going to continue on with the Halloween sketchbook and just get into cards and different makes. And there's a lot of things about this set. Of course, you can utilize all of them to create a panel. So this is another etc. panel that Tammy B created using the panel itself and then the tiles, because the tiles, we have the little mosaic ones that you saw her use, and then we have the big tiles. But these are just great. I love how she created a home decor piece using the etc. panel. There's a little trim tape all the way around the edge from Ideology. And then just take a look at these panels. Inked, colored, a little bit of mica, a little stamping. It's just a lot of fun, little embossing. But each of these pieces, just that tile itself, because I love that etc. is just that board, just creating those little tiles, maybe cover it with collage medium. I think they're little works of art in and of itself. I think it's something about having it on that, that rigid surface that just makes it really great. And I also love how she stacked the tiles. So this is one layer, and this is where she just stacked that on a blank tile. But imagine, you could do this, and you could create a hinge with tape, and you can have these flip open and do all sorts. I mean, you could take this however far you want. But I love the idea of seeing home decor pieces done with stamps, because from party favors to cards to home decor, it's really great use of stamped images. Fun, super fun. Then we have a little shakety shake from Joy. I love how she took that little bat from Tiny Frights and then mixed it up with this vampire from the sketchbook. Take a look at the background too. So we got this great shakety shake. We got all these little sequence, but in the background there's mica stain. I don't know if you can see that image, but we've got that image of shatter, which in this case looks like spiderweb. That stamp is like the chameleon. It looks like marbling, it looks like shatter, it looks like spiderwebs. But how fun is that? I love the pairing of images. Really cute, because he's going, and then you know he's going to turn into a bat and fly away. A haunting we will go. Super fun. There's also, in addition to little sprinkly bits, there's also some mica tiles or mica flakes in there. See that little distressed mica flake? I just noticed it. There's so many details when I do live that it's like, even when I'm cleaning up, I'll be like, oh, I didn't see that. Because I'm, I prefer to just be off the cuff and see what happens. See what happens. But really, amazing, cute ideas for cards. This card Emma created. I'm going to set that right over here. There we go. I love the scene of this. Emma created, it's a fun use of dyes as well. So first of all, just talk about the background. So the background, we've got all this wonderful ink, of course, the stitching, sewing around the edge. It's a big card, bigger than my hand, and I love the Emma cards. We've got that grit paste. It looks like a little bit of glow. Look at that. So that's going to glow in the dark from that Spellbound. But I really like how she created almost a snow globe-like with dies. Okay, so this is just going to be a circle die. So she layered it. So if you have a nested circle die, you just cut your nested circle shape. This first one, this is black distressed wood grain. I'm telling you now, I saw that a couple of retailers still have that distressed wood grain that we did last year. That was only one and done. I know the white sold out last year, but I actually saw a couple people say that they just picked up that black wood grain. You're gonna see. There's just cool things you can do with black wood grain, but I love how Emma used it there. Then a smaller circle die, and that's where she did her little Halloween sketchbook series, taking the witch and then also using that graveyard to create a little scene, and then taking a label die that's a little bit bigger and just kind of making that snow globe look. Isn't that clever? Really cool use for dies. And then we have just a bunch of hocus pocus. The October 31st from the Obscure. You don't have to use the whole thing. Use what you want. Cut what you want. Use what you want. And then we've got that Shake Well, and then that is another stamp. I do love that. I think that's from the Inspector. I think that little line with the star embossed in gold. Isn't that great? wonderful cards, because a card like this, it could be a card. This could go into a black frame. This could go into a clipboard. Remember, there's always ideas to take the talents that you put into a make and bring it beyond the card. You could gift it as a card, but then it could also be just displayed in someone's home so many different ways. I love it. And yeah, the shake well, really smart idea for the globe. And then we got the little bat and these little stars that just shine. Beautiful, beautiful card. Fun scene. And speaking of scene, man, when I saw these, like I'll be honest, I put these out last night when I was setting up, and I had to read the notes because Kathy wrote a whole bunch of notes, because I'm like, what the what? It's an entire series, an entire scene series, if you will, of cards created using the Halloween sketchbook. But there's way more to it, and that's why I was like trying to figure out how all of this worked. So Kathy created these scene cards. So the imagery, the stamps, that is all Halloween sketchbook. You can see back here that she stamped the graveyard scene twice. We've got the ghost up in the tree, the ghost here. We've got the little monster with the candy just walking around, and we've got the witch there. It's just really a fun use of design. A lot of these elements, though, these are all Sizzix dies. Some of them way old, some of them rather new. So I want to call it out. So the branches, so all of these big black branches coming in, this was a Biggs die that I did called Branches. Well, you know, I'm original with the names, but it creates these really big branches that she pulled in from the sides. Then the cemetery scene that you see here, this is from Ghost Town 2. So that's a die. So you see that little graveyard. It really mimics that stamp. I didn't realize how well. Totally different artist, by the way. But really interesting how it just mimicked that look. Very clever to find that die and say, oh, I'm gonna create that perspective of that stamp. Matchy matchy. Really surprised. And then the gates. These gates right here are from the new graveyard colorized, just die cut and overlapped to create the scene. So combining die cuts and inks, and you can see the background, you see the shiny splatter. This is embossed in black. This is the splatter from Foreboding. Remember I talked about that really cool, let me grab it right here, because sometimes you just don't understand the power of a good splatter. And you're like, why does he do so many of them? Because look at that. You have a good splatter with big drops, which I don't often do. Just stamp that and do your embossing, and then you don't really see it, but it shines so perfectly, and you can overstamp it. So the backgrounds, those are all done with black embossing or on black cardstock using the splatter. Then we have these wonderful scenes. Look at that. I love the cauldron with, it looks like the little fiery flames, and got the moon back there. But what a great scene, right? So good. So cool to take these in. I mean, yes, these are cards, but if you wanted to kick this up a notch, you can embed tiny lights behind that frame, and you could put this in a picture frame and light it up, and it's a decor piece, right? You could have your tiny lights glowing down purple or green or whatever. So you can take an idea for a make any level you want. I really loved not only the commitment in this, because Kathy's, remember, they only have to make 2 cards total. This was like, but when a maker is inspired, they love to make. That's what we do, right? So sitting down and creating this, I think she created one, and she's like, oh, that scene was fun. I got to go. So I do love that. Really amazing. Inspiring. So many different ideas for working with the stamps. I think, you know, seeing the sketchbook, we've got this idea. Just a little reminder of those little tags, because they're going to kind of be off over here. Look at all of these ideas. Crazy, right? So many. I'm going to try to fit these on camera this time. Look at that. Oh, I can do it. Now I'm like paying attention to Mario's screen. I'm like looking over my shoulder to kind of see over there, and it's like I can fill in the blanks. I absolutely can fill in the blanks. Brilliant. It's just so clever.
Beautiful.
So much fun in the world of Halloween makes. So good. Yeah. Fun. All just done with. That's why I told you I love the set, because you can just create so many different stories. I love it. All right. Little reverse stamping, by the way, if you notice that. See how he's going the other way? You know, where you can stamp and then stamp it again. See, we got 2 monsters going the other way. Is this one? Clever. Get all the tricks all the tricks. Okay. Well done. Thanks. There you go. You can go in there.
Got it.
Oh, okay. So next up, we're going to talk about Foreboding. They really like to get their creep on with the skulls. So much fun. So as I mentioned, this set, it has a lot of great elements, and you're going to see from the makers that obviously the skull was really, the star of the show. But I think how you paired it with different elements determined whether it was super creepy or not, okay? That's all I'm saying. So this first card, let me just bring this one in. Barbara created this. So this is Foreboding. See, it has this eerily creepy but quite beautiful, stunning design to it, aesthetic. I love that it's on purple. I know that purple fans, especially for Halloween, it's magic. But take a look at the background, how that's embossed with shattered. But because it's done in just a cream or an off-white embossing, and now she's got this little bit of mummy cloth, it just kind of carries on that almost web-like aesthetic to the background. That's what I said, that see, now this stamp is spider webs, okay? We've got the skull, fussy cut, colored beautifully, a little bit of mica stain. There's that spider just done in purple. And because if you're going to go and fussy cut it, I mean, see how she just bent the legs? Because they're paper and they're thin, you can just bend them to give it even more creepy crawly dimension. And then we have these beautiful flourishes. I love how they are stamped. I love how they are colored with mica stain and then cut out. This is another nice thing about it. I know there's people that just don't like to do a lot of fussy cutting, but in the world of flourishes, this is an easy one. Because if you look at it, it's really thick lines. It's not all these tiny little curlicues, so if you're going to cut it out, it's beautiful. And then we've got that Halloween Night from the Obscure. But isn't that a great card, tied with mummy cloth? I love that, Barbara. A little bit of metallic just makes it, it's really, it's good. It's a great stamp, especially if you like creepy. If you like creepy, this is the set. So Vicky created this. I love this really grungy, dark, disturbing gothic. But here's the thing that I really enjoy when it comes to looking at design. Here you can see that Vicky took that flourish and just stamped and embossed it. So I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but the card itself, it just has such a shine, and you can see that flourish in a different way than you see it here. But also just how she went in with the skull, not only cut it, but then cut out his eye sockets, and the spider is crawling out of his eye. That's so good.
That's awesome.
That is so good.
That's a real
yeah, it is an eek. It's creepy. And then she's got Lost in the Darkness. This is on an etc. trim, but using mummy cloth. But just, I mean, already just in the first two, the elements, as I mentioned, they're really basic. But the story you can tell depending on how you pair it, it's so good. Yeah, I absolutely love that. Creepy crawly. Okay, it's going to get even creepier. I'm telling you. Like, we're building up. You kind of been warned. So Cassie created this one. Now, this is not the skull of Foreboding. This is the skull that's in Obscure, but I needed to show you because of how she used the spiders from this set. But take a look at this card. So creepy. All the colors in the background. Then we've got some crackle paste of Spellbound. I love how she's got that red eye in there, but look at just all those spiders. So many creepy crawlies. Those are all fussy cut and layered, all built on top of it. I like the one that's kind of crawling out of his nose. It's a lot of cutting. And then we have just the color and the stamping, but this was hilarious. That's her note. This one kind of creeps me out. It's just so funny. I love that even the maker, you make it and you're like, I'm pretty creeped out by that. So isn't that funny? That's super funny because I was like, that's creepy. And then when I saw her note, it made me laugh even more because, yeah, when you do it, you do it. So Juliana created this card. So this, I liked like a totally different approach to this and a clever way to use some different things. So here we've got that shattered again done in gold. I know that Keisha did it as well, and I love seeing that stamp embossed because it gives it a different look to me. It does give it more of a marbly kind of look than shattered or spider webs or lightning that we've seen. But here Juliana paired it onto a torn piece of paper with the little weed stamp from the Obscure. But instead of using the flourishes from the stamp set, because maybe you don't want to stamp them, maybe you don't want to cut them, if you've got die cuts, So here she just paired it with the little ornate dies, little swirls. There's some mica tiles under there, but you can easily pair it with your dies and then still just cut out the skull and then do the gold embossing of Halloween night. But a great idea, a great use of elements, but again, tying into your dies. And you see a lot of makers used stamps, but also with dies. And of course, you know, everything is done in the world of distress with mica stain and embossing. But beautiful card, right? I love the idea of using the die. Then this card, Zoe with a Y created this. I love the drippy candles. I do. So here, this card is spider free, unless there's one inside. Nope, spider free. But I love how she created that background. Again, the inky background. There you can see the stencil of that wonderful crackle. We've got the skull that's embossed and cut out. See, black embossing, it's so dramatic, isn't it? So, so good. And then we've got the flourish. That's also cut. But I do love these drippy candles. I love, these are stamped and cut out and then layered. And then we've got a little bit of mica stain on the flame, so the flames just kind of glow. And I love that one that's just kind of tucked back there. But isn't that cool? Again, using the same candle stamp, but clearly back here it's shortened a little bit, so you get that perspective. And I love the drips. It's fun. And look at how that little cut flourish continues from here. Probably cut in half because you don't need to waste it behind here, and then just use a little bit coming out of the back. And happy Halloween. Isn't this a wonderful card? I love this card. I love all the cards, but it's the ideas that you just kind of go in and say, right, I'm gonna take that and create the glow. I see Tammy's like, I love this one. I know, drippy candles for the win, right? Very, very cool. Creepy cool. Just people use things in such a different way, which I absolutely love. All right. So this one, again, Kathy, because it's going to have a whole little outline. But take a look at this card. Now, at first when I looked at this card, I was like, huh, okay. But there had to be something because, you know, you wouldn't do all of this and it didn't have this wow factor. Here's the wow. So the card itself, the panel, this is all done with the new mica stain. So this is mulled cider. And then you can see those little flourishes stamped in there. Isn't that a great ghosty effect? I love how they're layered over the mica stain. Then we've got it wrapped in some string with a little spider, so it's a little spider web going around. We've got the Halloween, but it's this panel right here. So this entire panel glows in the dark. Okay, so you gift someone this card. It's a great card, fabulous images, but then at night, this entire panel illuminates. And here's how she did it. She painted on grit paste glow to a piece of cardstock. Okay, so just painted that on. But because it's grit paste and you can't really stamp on it after you're done because it's really chunky, okay, she stamped her images on a piece of vellum and then layered the vellum over the panel of grit paste. See, the entire scene of the card, I stamped the images on vellum and mounted onto a cardstock painted with glow paste. How brilliant is that? Because you can't stamp on the paste, too textured. What a great idea. To stamp on vellum, layer it over that panel, and then put that in a card. So on its own, the card is great, but then at night when that recipient gets it, they're going to be like, what is glowing on around here? That is, I've been waiting to use that one. Very cool. Love the little bones up there as well. Right? Great idea. What's going on? But see, even if you just wanted to take that idea and just do that maybe behind a sentiment. So maybe you don't want to create a panel this big and you're like, okay, I'm going to do a card like this, but you know, I want my sentiment to glow. It's the idea. It's saying, all right, I'm going to make that little window, or maybe it's not even a window. I'm not even going to put it in a window. I'm going to do grit paste on a piece of cardstock, spread it out, let it dry, stamp my sentiment on vellum, put the two together, hit it with a tiny attacher, boom, it's going to glow. So it's the idea that makes it really brilliant. And I love the coloring of that mulled cider. But take a look at just all of the different creepy, cool ideas you can get with Foreboding. I find it always inspiring and fascinating that when you see how things can kind of go together and you can still take an idea from one and kind of creep into the next one, that makes it all worthwhile. It is. It's really, really good. All done with so many different elements from these to this. I told you, there's a whole little cast of elements that create a very, very cool effect. All right, here we go. Beautiful, beautiful. So we've got one more set. We've got our final set to go. And I can tell by the stack, it was a favorite.
It was.
Can always, because the makers, they get all the stamps, so they kind of do what they do. But this next one, and it makes my heart happy because the Obscure is one of my favorites as well because, well, it's odd and weird, and I love it. All right. Bringing these in. So this set just has a bunch of oddities. And the oddities of this is what will make these makes very unique, each one individually. So this first card Vicky created. I love how this skull from the Obscure lifts from alcohol ink. You know it's one of my favorite techniques where you just kind of do that black, but take a look at how creepy cool X-ray that is. And to make it even better, you put it behind an Ideology shattered piece of acetate. I mean, come on, like that is texture perfection. Then we've got little washers behind the fasteners, texture hammer, Ideology texture hammer. So you've got all those little dented brads. That's the beauty of a texture hammer. Some cork, little Ideology cork. And then this background, that's another panel done with lift ink, but this is done using that spider web from the Obscure and that splatter from Foreboding. See those little splattery dots? Because sometimes if you splatter alcohol, you could splatter with rubbing alcohol, but this makes sure everything remains in detail. But such a cool effect using black alcohol ink on Yupo with lift ink. You can do a little scuffing, but it's that to me right there with that shattered transparency, so good. Yeah, not to be confused with the stamp, although you could try to replicate it. You know, you can try to stamp in white and then go in and cut this out with a knife. I mean, that's not rocket science, that's easy. But these cuts, the fact that it's already done for you and you get these great details, that's the magic of putting it all together. Love it.
I love shattered.
It's so good. It's so good. I love it. So Zoe with a Y created this card. Again, the skull. Now he's just embossed in black over the background, but also embossed in black. I love seeing so much embossing. People just do it, whether it's with glaze or regular embossing powder. A lot of metallic. Seeing a lot of metallic for Halloween. But take a look at just the splatters of mica stain back there. There's that web design from the Obscure. Super fun because it just creates such a wonderful piece. I think because of its symmetry, you know, it's not so shattery because of that big spiral. It opens up to a lot of creative possibilities. But just a fun card, a great way to incorporate those elements. That little script, remember, just because you're getting a little fragment, it's stamps like this and even splatter. It's just designed that you just go, like, you don't care. There's no lining up. You get what you get and you don't throw a fit. And having images like this where people often wonder, like, why didn't you give us the whole thing? Because the whole thing would have created a line. If you had a rectangle stamp of text, you would need to either partially ink it or mask it to get that fade. And so by already creating an image that just fades away on the edge, it makes it so much easier to use, in my opinion. There we go. All right. So this one, Zoe without a Y, Zoe Hillman. If you followed Zoe for years, you know that she does a Halloween banner series where, you know, sometimes she does the whole banner, sometimes it's just different panels, and she's done it with many different brands, whether it's Sizzix or stamps. But this is an old school nested die of that pennant. But I love how Zoe went in and took the Obscure, stamped him, cut him out, but then take a look in there. She cut out his eye socket, put in a little Ideology hardware head. He got that screw head for his eye. And then we've got Halloween Night. And take a look at all that stamping back there. Just doing a wet inking stamp technique, whether you're stamping with stain or misting the stamp or doing blending. I love seeing shattered back there, the stamp. Then we've got in here just that little bit of text, just faint in there, and then Halloween Night. And then look at that bone. That's Ideology and some really cool funky moss. Love it. Cool, right? All the little details, a little hardware, a little rust, a little labels. But see, the idea of this, and I think what's really brilliant about makers, paper crafters, is that we can construct anything out of paper. It could be a card. It could start out as a card. It could be home decor. Every card could be a pennant. You could either attach it with a clip. You could cut it out from the bottom. You can attach, I love the little picture hanger hardware. If you didn't have hardware, you can go in. I grab these all the time. I'm just going to look for, where are they? Tiny clips, hinge clips. There we go. Grab these guys. These I use a lot. So if you didn't have this kind of hardware, this is something that you can use. You can do, this is the big one, but there's also, these come smaller. These are in Ideology. But you can take two smaller ones and you can clip that onto your wire or string. But there's a lot of great ways that you can take the work that you do and create pennants, banners, things that go inside wreaths. Just a great way to decorate. And so I love that makers, you know, not just show one way to use imagery. It's awesome. Then we've got this card. Kubert created this. I love just seeing that paired with a wood grain panel so you can see the background. Take a look at that. That's going to be, I'm guessing that's grit paste glow with some distress embossing glaze, because you can put that embossing glaze over the grit paste, give it a little color, and it will still glow because that glaze is translucent. You can see the web underneath there. Isn't this detail of the skull just so good? It's just so good. That's what I love about engravings. All that little line work, Stampers Anonymous just rocks in capturing every little detail of an image. Then we've got Dreadfully Wicked. That's going to be a baseboard from Ideology, but I do love that wood grain. I think it's cool to see him in a wood frame, kind of a wanted poster. I love that. Then we have this one. Good? Sure. We have this one. Keisha created this. I love seeing this embossed background, the tapestry, and then this panel. So we've got the mica stain, that black paste with all of the little peekaboo eyes coming through, and then we have our wonderful skull and Feeling Wicked indeed. So Feeling Wicked is from the Halloween sketchbook. So crazy, so crazy. And I love just seeing, of course, the detail that every single maker does. They do what they like, and they utilize the elements that tell the story for them. And I think that is very cool. That little spider is good. I don't know if he goes this way. I love how I don't know if he's supposed to spin, but I love that he does. You need to make spinner spiders. Right? Nice. All right. Continuing on, Juliana created this. Take a look at the layers and the cutouts. So there's a lot of stuff to this card. I don't know if I'm going to be able to show in the camera, but there's a lot of stuff. So we've got this cutout skull of the Obscure. Then his eye sockets are cut out. So that gives it that dimension right there. See, I love the sockets cut out. But then if you look at this background, can you guys see this? So this is a piece of alcohol ink. I'm going to guess it's Yupo translucent. It feels thicker to me than vellum, so it might be vellum, but I think it's translucent Yupo. Alcohol inked and stamped, but then cut through the layer dot die that we did with Sizzix for Halloween. And then she just kind of chopped off the edges, kind of just jaggedy, but it creates such a cool eroded, I don't know, layer or feel on the card. Then all the images in the background. I don't know if you can see. There is the spider from Foreboding. There is the little web right there in the corner. That's from the Obscure. There's the weed from the Obscure. There's a lot of different elements, and they're all stamped in different colors of distress. That's what's popping that little bit of orange and purple and green. So often stamping a background panel, even if you're not going to see it, that is providing your color. See, so many times you're like, oh, I got to get out an ink blender or do a blending brush. I need to do my color. That's fine. But if you just use your inks for stamping, even a little wet watercolor, that's going to pull your eye in and see those little bits of color without a blended background. I just think that's really cool. Little splattering of foundry wax, that's that bright metallic sterling, and then the stitching around the edge, and you can see these black lines. That is going to be that crackle stencil with the black opaque paste, because if you want those lines to really stand out, you're going to need that texture paste versus, say, the shattered stamp, which is supposed to be a little bit more subtle. But that's what I was saying. Like, I don't know if the camera's ever going to pick up how much texture this card has, from layers to stitching to texture paste to wax to ink to Yupo to 2 layers of cutting. Isn't that cool? It's great to just kind of see all of those things. Really, really good. Then we have this envelope. I love that Tifa created this one, and I really love the accent of the pen. That pen work, it just creates, it's almost like, you know, that black light luminous look, where I'm sure this just glows beautifully under a black light because we've got that green and the pink outline. So you've got a steady hand and you can do great detailed pen work. I love that Tifa puts in the time to do this. So this is on craft. Take a look at the background though. So this background is done with that shatter stamp, but stamped with mica stain. So you've seen me do that, where you take the sprays, ink up a stamp with spray, and stamp it. And I love how Tifa utilized that, because it does give not only the cool look, but look at that shine when the light hits it. So good. And then we've got the obscure, we've got him cut out, and take a look also at that little weed that she also cut out. That is fussy cut and layered. Whew. Yeah, anytime there's an island cut, I'm out of here, because that's a knife. So good. And then we've got the Halloween night, again with that pen work. I do love the pen. I think she's told us this before. It's like a, I don't know, because it kind of looks neon. It's great. All right. And then inside, oh, cool. A panel here. Let's see. Yes, it's a card panel that you could splatter. You see that little purple? So it's splattered with mica stain, so it gives it the purple. But I really love how she took the Halloween sketchbook, made the little scene, and then there is that flourish scroll from Foreboding. I told you that flourish has a lot of cool looks. Neon gel pen. Thanks, Tifa. Yeah, a neon gel pen. But see, isn't that like, that's really cool. It does. It just looks like it's just illuminated on the page, and then lost in the darkness. But I love how it's all mixed. Taking, you know, the obscure, this little element from Foreboding, a little sketch. It's great use of stamps to put it all together. But super fun. And I also love like the cuts, because it allows you to like have it come over the top and underneath. So many ideas. So many ideas. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful work. And then these, I gotta say, it made me chuckle, didn't it, Mario? When he brought these in, and I just, okay, because if you remember, Nico did Scary Clown. I think maybe it was last year. It was like the It Clown. Take a look at what Nico did with the obscure. Okay, now if you're a Disney fan, you will recognize these characters right away. This series of tags, like, so clever, so fun. I just love that he did Ursula, Maleficent, and Hades, just taking that skull, layering it up. I love the texture, and of course these are all colored with mica stain, but then you have just this great hair for Ursula, and the purple, so good. And then we have Maleficent, where he took the skull and then he drew this and cut that out to create the top of Maleficent. And then just this blue. I don't know where he gets this stuff, but it's so good. It's just that colored version. So fun for Hades. I think isn't that so clever? And then there's this, of course, is black opaque texture paste around the edge. That's a Sizzix die, and then the mica stain. But what a great series. What a fun way to take this and just think totally different. He got us with the scary clowns, and now he just got us with these brilliant ideas. Isn't that? It's so fun. Because, I mean, would you ever? No, I would have never connected the dots. I couldn't even get there. I wouldn't even tiptoe over there. It was just a great idea. So, yeah, I think it's a fun use for those tags. Just to create a whole little series of Disney-inspired villains. Brilliant. I agree. So much imagination. All right, we've got a few more makes. I set these aside because these kind of go beyond the card, right? When I saw these makes, and ironically, they all use obscure, but like these were ones that just went well beyond the card. And I'm like, okay, I'll set those aside. So this first one Emma created using the Etc. facade. So again, this is from Stampers Anonymous over one of the panels. But take a look at all that's incorporated in here to create this make, because for Halloween, for makers, stamps don't always have to be cards. They could be cards, tags, garlands, bags, pillow boxes, but they can also just be pieces of art that you want to create. So Emma did this panel. So take a look at that metallic embossing in the background. I love that ink blended. So this is where I was saying that this stamp itself, just shattered, is going to be used year-round for me, because I love the effect, the depth that it gives over a distressed background, because it looks like marble or Formica. So good. Then we've got this facade. So these bigger cracks, of course, that's using black opaque texture paste through that crackle stencil. That's what's giving us those really big thick lines versus these thin lines. And then you can see that the opening of this facade was perfect. It's a perfect framework for the spider web. I don't know if you can see it. The web is stamped on acetate. You can see that little line work. It's actually stamped on the transparency. So it goes over the whole thing. I think that's so beautiful. And then I love how that skull is cut out. he's dimensional in there, but it's all under that transparency. The little 1931, yeah, you don't have to use the whole thing. Just stamp it and cut out what you want. Use that little number piece right there. And then Halloween night, same thing, same stamp, but now it's just the top. So you don't necessarily need the date. There are many makers, I know I've seen Vicki do it a time or two, where she just cuts the stamp. Just goes in and says, yeah, okay, I'm going to take my blade and cut it because I'd like to have it as 2 stamps. You do you, that's yours. But I love just seeing it as Halloween night. It makes for a great title. Then we've got all the hardware heads and then some ideology adornments. We've got the leaves, we've got the entomology bug and the little star. I mean, just what a great make. It can definitely be for Halloween, but could also just be for someone that loves cool steampunk creepy, because I think this skull would be really great with gears, right? You could have all the ideology gears in there. It's a very cool steampunk skull as well, well beyond Halloween. But all the little threads around it, the little stitching on the paper before you're at it, just cool, right? Great piece of art, really cool. Speaking of piece of art, Kath created this panel. I love seeing imagery used to create art. So you can start with a panel and you could build a lot of different elements on it. This is a hardboard panel, but you can see on here that Kath stamped on a mica tile and did white embossing with the weeds. Isn't that beautiful? I love just how vivid. And I also love that there's a butterfly in here. This is a butterfly adornment from Ideology. Looks like a little foundry wax, but you can see that crackle through the stencil. You can also see some embossed collage, little October 31st. There's some alcohol ink back here, little drips, little reveals. It's just very mixed media, and I love everything about it. There's some paste. Looks like a little grit paste glow, maybe some embossing glaze through that Spellbound. I love that. This black paste is so cool where it shows up, because it is such a, I just love that stencil. I know I'm going to love using it because of all the crackle. There is that web, and that's done in lift ink. But see, even beyond a spider web, I think that's got a great, I don't know, a great artistic element to it. Just how makers have used it. It's cool. And then we've got some machine heads. This is a great make. Fun make, Kath. So cool to see all the little details mixed together to create an art panel. And that weed, it's like the star of the show. It's just good, right? It's very good. It's cool. Then Stacy created this, etc. So this is an etc. tag. So etc. comes in all different shapes and sizes, from panels to facades to big tags. This is the number 8 tag, so it's a hardboard tag. But take a look at the collage element. So this is it's very ideology strong, but not really if you kind of break it down. We've got this paper doll with the mask and the little bat wings. He takes center stage. Very cool, a little bit of ephemera. But if you look at everything else, all that other stuff is done with stamps. So you've got leaves that have been inked and stamped, and then this is die cut. So this is one of the leaf dies. So you could still stamp some leaves. You can see the detail there. Do your inking and then die cut it. I love the little spider. These are on nails. Can you see the nails? Look at how that spider is just crawling down the web. Can you even see the little thread? So that spider is suspended on the nails. He goes all across that tag as if he's climbing down the web, suspended by those ideology nails. So good. A little bit of a mica tile right there. That's also put on by nails. That's very clever, because that mica tile is like suspended. There's that spider web in the back, and there's a little bit of the weed that's like stamped and also cut to kind of give it that organic vibe with a little bit of moss and mummy cloth twisted and spiraled and stitched all around. I mean, shabby fab right here. Shabulous. There's the word. It is just shabulous. I don't even know how to spell that. I don't know, but I do love it. It is. It's fabulously shabby, because it is shabulous. It's got so many cool elements to it that you might look at it and not see it, but when you look at all that, it's so it's really good.
Shabulous.
There you go.
S-H-A-B-U-L-O-U-S.
There you go.
Good one, Zoe. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Zoe. I think that really the spider on the thread. Wow. All right. Then we have our final make, and I'm going to slow it down for this one because I don't want my video to get flagged. You'll see why in just a minute. So Zoe Hillman created this one. This is an etc. tag, but it is a brilliant use of the obscure, that's for sure. And clearly, I think sometimes makers just they escape into a whole other world. So this one, it's a bit of an arcade. I'll let you read it. It's Bats Hit Crazy Arcade and Bats Hit Hat Repairs. And you can say it slow, you can say it fast. I'll leave that up to you just to say it to yourself. But let's break it down and break down this fun little Halloween amusement. Of course, it has a spinner, an ideology game spinner. And this really, the star of this one, in addition to the elements, has to do with the hanging bat and this stamp right here, this swirling little web. Okay? If you look at this spinner, this is all done with the web stamp. We've got hanging bats all around. So, and I love the little top hats. I don't even know what stamp that's from. Look at these little tiny top hats. How did I not notice that? I mean, I saw the hat repair, but I didn't. You see how she put little hats on the hanging bats? So he's up here. He's just hanging out, and I love when makers just do all the like layered paper and twisty. And so back here we see all of that shatter stamping. Skill and amusement only, one of my favorite little things. But even this little pennant, so you see these little pennants on the thread? Really, really cool. These little, oh, so she said that the hats come from CMS 160 Paris to London. See, now I have to even go look at that set just to see where the little hat is from. If there's a hat to be found, Zoe will find it. Let's just say that. But I love the ideology game spinner and how he just spins around. But these little pennant flags, this right here, this spider web, so good just to take that and cut those and have these little stripe, these little pennant flags. I mean, how brilliant is that? And then you've got spin to win. So these could be Sizzix dies like alphanumeric, little label. We've got the bats just hanging there where you're like, check your bats. And then we've got the whole hat repair with the little, yeah, and then it's condemned. Do not use until adjusted. So obviously the bats have been condemned until they're adjusted. So we've got all of these layers of paper, but let me just set that down so you can take it all in for its fun now. So hilarious. And if you haven't said this to yourself a few times, you should say it now, because it did take me a minute to get it. Because I was like, I was reading, I'm like, bats hit, what, okay, oh. Then when I got it, I couldn't stop. Thanks, Mario. Mario got me the set. There's our little hat right there. Man, to go into 160 and look for things with hats, that's the mini version. You see that little top hat? That is definitely the perfect size hat for that little bat. The bat in the hat, right there. CMS 160 Paris to London. If you want a bat in the hat, there you have it. Brilliant, brilliant make. I mean, it's super funny. Yep. If the hat fits, you're right, Zoe. If the hat fits, you're going to find it. That's for sure. So we've got our wonderful, I'm going to put that up here. We've got our wonderful little bats, but so much stuff, right, for the obscure. And it is no surprise when you see how makers took elements and just created magic, just created whatever they wanted to dream up with this set. I think it becomes very, very magical, very inspiring. So much detail, so many ideas, just done with skulls, where you look at it and you're like, okay, it's a skull. What am I going to do with it? Well, you can cut it, but look at how many different ways you can incorporate the design itself. Oh my gosh, so you always run out. I knew I'd run out of room on this one just because there are so many ways that you can use the obscure. I mean, that right there for a set like this, you're like, what do you do? All these things are too obscure. They're too odd. Yes, they are. But when you just let your imagination run wild, from amusements to characters, to art, to creepy, to colorful, to neon, to even incorporating it with ideology, I mean, the sky's the limit, really. And that is the release of the 2023 Stampers Anonymous Halloween. Amazing.